A few months ago, I reviewed all the different parts of the SanDisk Professional Pro Blade system. I've really enjoyed using this system from the transport to the G-RAID mirror to the Pro Blade station. But in this video, I'm going to give you a couple more details about my thoughts of the system and the things I've learned after using it for a few months now. Now, just a quick recap, the Pro Blade system is made up of these individual Pro Blade magazine drives. And what these allow you to do is you can buy one from 1, 2, or 4 terabytes. Then you can either use them with the transport, which is just a USB 2x2 interface that allows you to use this as a portable SSD. Or you can also take these same magazines and put them into the Pro Blade station, which uses Thunderbolt. So this gives you the fastest possible transfer speeds. So you just plug your computer into this really nice enclosure, and then you're able to put up to 4 of these in at the same time, which is fantastic for transferring files back and forth from one drive to the next. So I've really enjoyed using the Pro Blade station. Honestly, this is the way I've used them most of the time because I mostly work on my desk setup back there, and I'll use the Pro Blades as a way to spread my files across different drives so I can edit directly off of them. You can also record directly to these drives using the transport and attaching it to a compatible camera, and then you just plug the USB-C port in on the back. Unfortunately, I don't have any of these cameras to test it with, but I think this would be such a slick system for using to record directly onto NVMe drives because these are quite a bit more affordable than buying individual SD cards or CF Express Type A or B cards. And I do want to say SanDisk sent me all the stuff in this video for free, but all the content in this video is my own, and everything I'm about to share is from my experience using it in the real world. Another part of this system I've loved is this G-RAID mirror. This has 2 drives in it. They're both spinning disks, so it's not quite as fast as the NVMe drives that SanDisk has. But you get this slot on the front so you're able to work off of an NVMe drive as well. These are going to be a little bit slower than using the station. So the station is going to give you the fastest possible speed. You're going to hit around 2,500 megabytes a second on the read and the write. If you use this 2x2 enclosure, on a Mac, you're only going to get speeds of about 950 megabytes a second because Macs don't support the dual lane USB. But if you have a compatible computer, you can hit close to 2,000 megabytes a second. That's going to make this transport quite a bit faster and easier to use. So I've mostly just used the transport when I've been on the go and I've wanted to access my files without having to lug around the huge station. I haven't used the slot on the front of the G-RAID mirror as much because I only have 4 of these and I just haven't found it necessary to use yet. If you want to buy any of these products, I do have links in the description below, and for even more dedicated reviews of all the individual products, check out the links in the description as well. So to get it all started, I love this system and I love how simple it is because you're able to plug up to 4 of these into one enclosure at a time. This is really nice because I've started to grow my collection of portable SSDs. It's kind of annoying to try and figure out what files are on which one and to have to just have a bunch of USB-C cables flying everywhere. So with this, you're able to just directly plug it into your computer, access up to 4 of them at one time, which makes it really easy for me to consolidate files, to move them around from one drive to the next. Absolutely love the station in the real world. The thing about the station that has kind of frustrated me though is after I've used it longer, I've noticed if I transfer 100 or more gigabytes at one time from one drive to the next, the fans get really loud on this. So that can be really annoying if you're trying to transfer a terabyte of data because this thing is going to be loud. And it is really fast. The transfer speeds are very fast on this, but you're still going to be annoyed by the fan sounds. And in my initial review, I said the fans didn't come on at all. And that is true when you're editing. Whenever I'm editing off of this on Final Cut Pro, even using large libraries, I don't notice any fan noise at all. But as soon as you start to transfer from one drive to the next and you go above 100 gigabytes, usually 150 gigabytes or more, you will hear the fans rev up on this thing. And it can even rev up if you're transferring from a different external drive into this enclosure as well. So that's been my biggest complaint with the Pro Blade station. Other than that, I've really loved using this as a way to easily access files off of a couple of these drives at once. And people complained about the price of these, but honestly, they're really similarly priced to the WD Black NVMe drives that are actually on the inside of this. So I really do like these Pro Blades, and I plan to keep on building my setup out using these as my main drives for my stationary setup. I've also noticed even when I'm doing large file transfers, the speeds on both the G-RAID mirror and the Pro Blade station don't waver at all. They hold a consistent speed even while doing large file transfers. Just watch out for the fan noise on the Pro Blade station. Let's talk about the G-RAID mirror. Why would you even want to buy a spinning disk hard drive in 2024? The main reason is because of the cost savings, because it's a lot cheaper to just buy a drive like this that has 2 spinning disks in it. It also offers redundancy because the files are copied to both of the 2 hard drives that are in this. So if one hard drive fails, you can get it replaced, put it in this, and all your files are able to copy back over. So this gets about 250 megabyte a second transfer speeds in the real world. And I have done a little bit of editing off of this. If I have an old library and I need to make a quick tweak or re-export something, I find that it works just fine. Although if you're scrubbing across the timeline a bunch, this thing can be a little bit annoying to use. So I definitely don't recommend getting the G-RAID mirror for editing off of. This should only be used for archival purposes. But I really appreciate having this as a way to keep my Pro Blades cleaned off whenever I'm done with working on a project. I can just move all the files over to this. So another con is this does fill up kind of fast. I have the 12 terabyte version, which I have it in RAID 1. So the files are mirrored across both drives, which means you actually only get 6 terabytes of usable space. So if you're going to buy a G-RAID mirror, I personally would recommend investing in a larger one. Don't start with the 12 terabyte model because you're going to fill it up really fast. Spend a little bit of extra, get the one that has 16 terabytes or the higher capacity ones as well. They make them where the individual drives are all the way up to 22 terabytes, so you can buy a 44 terabyte version of this if you want. Because if you get your files filled up and you want to copy them over to the drives, it is going to be a little bit of a hassle. You're going to need to get a SATA dock, and then you're going to have to pull the drives, power them, put the new ones in here. It's just going to be a whole ordeal, especially because the speeds of this aren't as fast as using the NVMe SSDs. So my advice for the G-RAID mirror is get a bigger one than you think you need, because you will fill this up, especially as the file sizes on cameras continue to grow and increase. The last piece of the puzzle, this Pro Blade transport, I really haven't used this a ton just because I am limited to the slower speeds on this. The speeds are 3 or 4 times faster using the Pro Blade Station versus using the Pro Blade transport on a Mac. But it works really well. I use this when I'm on the go and I still need to access the files that are on my Pro Blades. So I have liked this. This feels really rugged, but I will say the transport does feel a little bit unnecessarily oversized, especially when you put the actual drive on top of it. You can just tell how big this thing is. So I don't really like the transport quite as much, and I wish that SanDisk would come out with one of these that uses Thunderbolt instead of USB dual lane, because then you're going to be able to take advantage of the faster speeds of the drives on a Mac. So until they come out with that, I really don't recommend the transport that much, although it is nice to have one lying around. You will find yourself using this a whole lot more if you're recording from a Blackmagic or Panasonic camera. So transport definitely has its place, just not as much in my workflow because I don't record directly to these on my cameras. Also, I will add this, I just had to dig this out. The SanDisk Professional Pro G40 is still my personal favorite external SSD to use, just because when you compare the size of it directly to the Pro Blades, it's really not that much bigger, but when you start to get a collection of these Pro Blades built up, you will really appreciate just how compact they are. They stack up so thin. Then when you compare them to the size of one Pro G40, you will see that these do take up quite a bit less space. So I still really like the Pro G40 because it gives you that Thunderbolt editing speed on the go, and it is smaller than using this transport. So to me, the Pro G40 really has its place for your first external SSD because it gives you those really fast, really reliable Thunderbolt 3 speeds. And it does really well even under a heavy load of editing. I haven't had any issues with heat on this thing. So my recommendation is, if you're starting to build out a system of SSDs, I would start by buying the 4 terabyte Pro G40 because this is going to make a great edit drive and drive for on-the-go use. But if you're mostly using desktop for editing, I would go ahead and invest in the Pro Blade Station and start building out your collection of the portable drives. So as I've created more and more videos and my content library is growing, I have really come to appreciate the modular storage system that the Pro Blade Station has to offer. And I really like using the G-RAID mirror as a way to just have a second backup of files as well. I think if you're creating a lot of content, or if you have an agency, you're working with different clients, it could be really handy to have Pro Blades for each different client. You can use your station to edit off of, and you can put your labels on the back of these drives as well. One thing I will say is once they're all plugged into the dock, it is kind of hard to know which of these is which. I wish they'd come up with a way to label them on the outside, although you could use some thin label tape if you wanted to. I personally just really like the sleek convenience that this setup has to offer, and it works really well. I haven't had any issues with heat or the fans under heavy load. I've only noticed the fans if I'm transferring a bunch of files from one drive to the next, but not using any other video editing like on Final Cut Pro, even with color grading applied. So to start tying it all together, we have to talk a little bit about price. It's really hard to put price labels on this system because every time I make one of these videos, the prices are different. I have noticed if you're buying a 4 terabyte Pro Blade, the prices are typically $20 to $50 more expensive than a drive like the Crucial X10 Pro in the 4 terabyte model, or they are going to be just a little bit cheaper than buying the SanDisk Professional Pro G40. If you value speed, reliability, the compact nature of these, and building out a modular system, I would definitely recommend these over building out a pile of other external SSDs. You're really going to enjoy these once you start to build out a collection of 4 or more of these portable SSDs. If you have any other questions about the SanDisk ProBlade Station, leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer them. If you're interested in any of these products in this video we talked about, I have links in the description below. Also, like this video, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content. For more information on any of these individual components, I do have dedicated video reviews of all the components.